hope you're doing well. Welcome to another video session. Today we are going to be making Jamaican patties. Yay! And you will be using the rubbing in method to make your short crust pastry. So let's get started. Alright guys, so you don't need to see me, but I'm just going to go through and explain to you what we have here. So in my bowl already I have my sifted plain flour and I have my butter that I've already weighed out there. Alright, I'm going to add a teaspoon of salt. Okay, and what I'm going to do is do the rubbing in method now to make sure that all of the butter is well incorporated within the flour. Now if you remember, the rubbing in method is whereby it looks like breadcrumbs. It gives that breadcrumbs appearance. Okay, now ideally what I would like you to do is to have your butter straight out of the fridge. And the reason for this is so that the butter does not become very soft and melt down very quickly. And what will happen then, it will create a paste. Yeah, so what will happen is that the flour and the butter will become a paste rather than breadcrumbs, because the butter is going to be so soft. So the firmer the butter, the easier it is for you to get those fine pieces of breadcrumbs within the flour. All right. Now remember I said to you we're making Jamaican patties, and traditionally these patties are colored using a little bit of turmeric. And so once all of this is within the breadcrumbs consistency, we are then going to add all of the 1 teaspoon of turmeric powder. Now I am quite happy with that, and you can see little lumps of butter, which is fine. What I'm not looking for is huge lumps of butter, and that looks like breadcrumbs to me. So I'm going to add my turmeric now. Just a touch more. And I'm going to mix it up. Now, one thing to be aware of here is that if you add too much turmeric powder, when it reacts with the heat, it actually turns orange. We are looking for a bright yellow color. All right, so if yours goes orange, that's simply telling you, hey, you know what, I've added too much of the turmeric powder. Okay, now remember, when making pastry, everything must be kept cold or cool, and I have some cold water here to add into my mixture. Okay, so I'm going to add it bit by bit. So I've added 5 then. I'm just going to mix it all together, and I'm using the tablespoon. Okay, now with pastry, it's very important that you actually get the water consistency correct. If it's too wet, again, you'll be making a very soft paste. We want it to be a firm paste, yet so that when you roll it out and you bake it, it's a crumbly consistency. And if you notice, I still have lots of loose of the breadcrumbs mixture there, but I'm not going to add any more because this is still quite soft. So I'm going to squeeze it in, and I'm going to turn it around and make sure all of it goes in. And remember, the warmth of my hands is also going to contribute to that particular paste coming together. All right, I'm just turning it over. As you can see, it's picking it up, and I'm just still molding it together all the same time. And if you could notice also that my pastry is yellow. It is not orange. It is not extremely bright. It is just a pale yellow. And that's the sort of color we're looking for. Now I'm going to turn this out, and I'm going to mold it together. And what I mean by that is just simply squeeze it together. All right, so I've only added 5. Now, sometimes with flour, the consistency of the flour may need more water. Sometimes the flour consistency is really dry. Sometimes it may need less water. Sometimes it may need more, okay? But what I don't want you to do is have a sloppy consistency like when you're making bread. Okay, it should not be like that, okay, because it's not a dough. It is a pastry consistency you're looking for. So a paste mixture, so short crust pastry. Okay, now what I'm going to do is put this in the fridge again to keep it all chill. I'll wrap it up in some cling film and I'm going to chill it down for at least 25 minutes. And while I'm doing that, I am going to go ahead and make the filling. Alright guys, so welcome back, and I'm going to show you what I've already prepared here. Okay, so in my bowl I have some mince, and I'm going to use some beef mince. Now you can use chicken, pork, lamb. Okay, so it's entirely up to you what sort of mince you want, even turkey, what sort of mince you really want to use. I've added 1 teaspoon of curry powder in there, and I've added some salt. Okay, and I'm just going to mix it all up, and I'll do that in a minute. On this chopping board I have some finely chopped garlic. I didn't have any fresh chili peppers, but I do have some dried chilies. This is your minced onion, sprig of thyme, and half a sprig of rosemary. And I have my 2 potatoes already mashed. Okay, so I'm going to massage this into together and make sure that's really combined there. So remember, all I have in here is just 1 teaspoon of curry powder and half a teaspoon of salt. Okay, so I'm happy with that. Just going to wash my hands, so hold on a second. Right, so in here I've added 1 tablespoon of vegetable oil, and I have my heat up quite high, and I'm going to lower it down as soon as I hear the sizzle start. Okay, now I'm going to add all of the spices in, and all the herbs, etc. going in also. I'm going to leave the chili out because my husband is a little bit of he's scared of chili, so I'm going to leave that out, otherwise he'll have a go at me. But feel free to make it as hot as you so want. Okay, so I'm gently now frying these off. I'm going to turn the heat down because I don't want the garlic to be burning. And you can actually smell the aromas of the rosemary, the garlic and the thyme here, gently frying off. Okay, now I'm going to add my mince, and I'm going to dry fry this. And what I mean by that is that I'm going to keep turning it until it gets brown all over and it's separated. So at the moment it's all chunky and it's sort of sticking together, and what we need to do is to keep moving it so that we break up all those chunks and the mince actually goes brown. I'm going to turn the heat back up again. Remember, keep it moving. Control the temperature. If you think it's too high, by all means, turn it down. Okay, listen to the sound of the saucepan. It actually tells you what's actually going on in there. Okay, so my mince is getting nice and brown. And again, keep it moving. Don't stop, don't walk away, have conversations and burn it. Okay, the importance here is to stand and actually monitor what you're doing. Okay, and if you notice, I haven't added any liquid. This is just the fat from the mince that's helping it to actually sizzle. Okay, now when making Jamaican patties, you don't add any sort of turmeric or anything like that. You really try and keep the mince as simple, okay, with trying to get all the flavour from what you've actually added out into the dish. Right, so my mince is nice and brown. Now the recipe calls for 100 milliliters of water, and I'm going to add that in now and let it cook down. Now we do not want this to be a stew. Yeah, this is not a stew. We need all of this liquid to evaporate. Notice all of my mince is loose. There is no huge pieces of chunky mince together. So we want to cook this down, let it evaporate, let the flavors of the stock infuse within the meat. And then we will add the mashed potato. Okay, there's a particular consistency we're looking for. We don't want it too dry, and we do not want it wet and runny. We're looking for a moist consistency that once we add it to the pastry, it pulls its shape. Okay, so we're going to leave that for about 3 to 4 minutes, possibly 5, depending on how high you have your heat flame, and then we will come back to it. Okay, so you can see my mince and the stock is actually starting to get evaporated. I'm going to turn it down nice and low. Now I'm going to just taste it, add some seasoning, and make sure everything is okay. So I'm going to add some black pepper, because I know I haven't added any yet. So that's half a teaspoon. I'm going to now mix in my mashed potatoes. Now, the reason for the mashed potatoes here is to bind it together, and this replaces the tomato puree, all right? And that's basically it, just to bind it together so that there is something else besides just meat in your mince. Now, once this is well incorporated, and what I mean by that is the potato and the mince together, what we're going to do is have a taste and then put it to cool. Now, this must be completely cold before we add it to the pastry. If you add it to the pastry when it's hot or even warm, it's going to be a big old mess. The pastry is going to get all soft and sticky and wet, and it is not going to work. Okay, remember I said the pastry must be cold. Everything with pastry must be cold, so the filling must also be cold as well. So pour this out into a plastic container, spread it out, and then let it chill down, cool down, so that you can literally handle it. Right, so I think mine is ready. I'll have a little taste and then that's perfect. Okay, so once it's chilled, we will come back to it. Okay guys, so my pastry is out of the fridge, and I've just sprinkled on a little bit of flour. Try not to go crazy with this. I know some of you are a little bit heavy-handed with the flour, because remember, all of this, eventually gets back into the actual paste itself. So limit the amount you put on there. I'm just going to roll it out. I'm going to turn. Don't worry about it tearing. That's the sort of nature of pastry. It does that. Don't worry about it. Take your time. We are aiming for a 1 pound coin thickness. Yeah, for the pastry. All right. And notice every time I'm moving it, there's a little crack. Then all I'm going to do is just seal it back together with my fingers. So I don't want you panicking about it. Just keep it moving, just to make sure, to confirm to yourself that it is not sticking, right? I can lift it up and see that's fine. I'm going to move it again. Right, move it about, and look, I'm using all of those extra flour there. I'm not excessively picking up or any more flour for dusting. All right, keep it simple. Remember what I said about the cracks? Just stick it back together. Now, the size or diameter of the patties is really down to you and how big or small you want to make them. Now I'm going to use this side plate, and I'm going to use that as my measurement. And these are going to be quite big actually. I'm looking at them. I think I'll get a smaller one. Okay, so I have a smaller size now, so I'm going to cut around it using a very sharp knife. Keep the edge of the knife towards the edge of the plate. Okay, lift it up. Do the same. Now at this time my temperature for my oven, it's been on preheated at the moment, so it is 150 degrees. I've turned it on. So the idea is that once all of this is ready, it can go straight in for baking, and it bakes for 20 minutes in total. So I'm just going to take up the excess and just fold it. And again, I'm going to reuse this piece here to make more of the patties. I'll just leave that on the side. And what I'm going to do now is just slightly stretch these out so that I have enough room to actually fold it over. Remember, don't panic about it tearing. That is the nature of pastry, as I said. And that's a good sign. It actually tells you that your end product with your pastry is going to be crumbly. All right, so I'm putting it on half of the pastry. Don't make it too over-filling because obviously it's going to ooze out. In here I have my egg wash, a bit of salt, water, and of course the egg. And I'm just going to do half a moon. I'm not going to do the whole circle. I'm just going to do half. I'm going to fold it over very gently towards you. Press it down edge to edge. And use a fork and just press the edges. And that's one done. I'm going to brush it. And as I said, allow them to bake for 20 minutes. I'm going to carry on all of this, get it all finished, and then I'll show you the end product. Okay guys, so I've gotten 6 all together, and as you can see, none of them have turned out sort of orangey color, as I told you before, when you add too much of the turmeric. So what we're looking for is a bright yellow color on them. Okay, I've cut one open already, just to see what it looks like. And as you can see, it is nicely packed. Yeah, it's not sort of the filling is falling out. It's holding its shape together once you've cut it in half. So I'll put this down here on the plate. And remember, it is a starter. I've made a little tossed salad here. I just added 1 tablespoon of mayonnaise and with some finely chopped garlic. And it's just to add a little bit of color to it. All right, and that's it basically. This is how I would expect to see you serve it up. You can add a bit more greens to it. It's entirely down to you. But let me see what yours look like. Okay, so I look forward to seeing yours. Have a good time and enjoy cooking. Bye.